hub is operating as a retail model. There's an online ordering period. The general public can order and they can pick up at one of 3 pickup locations. But also, hopefully before next growing season, we have wholesale sales operating as well, and that'll entail a whole new management of deliveries to restaurants and caterers. And so that's also a whole new market. So it's shared marketing, it's shared infrastructure. And the food hub doesn't own, the food hub is not purchasing any products. The food hub is an infrastructure enabler. So what the food hub is doing is being an intermediary in order to connect the producers and the consumers. So the farmers, you own your product through the supply chain. Your methods are, need to be transparent, and food will be traceable to the farm. And it's going to save farmers loads of time, because we're creating this one location that you can drop massive amounts of produce throughout the year, instead of, again, trying to run up and down the island, trying to establish all these new outlets. And COVID. So, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, initially the intent was to launch wholesale sales first. Obviously, COVID happened and all the restaurants were closed, so there was, it didn't make sense to try and push that initially. But what we did see was everyone locally not wanting to stand in line at Walmart or Safeway was, this massive boom of people reaching out to farms. And so we saw an opportunity and we took it to launch retail sales at the food hub. So the food hub was funded through USDA and Island County CARES funding. NABC and David Bauermeister have provided all of our administrative support. Shannon and the Conservation District have provided a ton of administrative and marketing support. And then it's been, from now to then, essentially run by volunteers. In mid-July, we hired a market manager, Danielle Klein, and she's been managing the food hub ever since. We have 2 distribution employees now. And so for the 2020 growing season, because we are this new entity and because everything changed so drastically, WIG waived all the fees, all the membership requirements, so that people could participate, so that we could get the food hub launched, so that we could keep things flowing. So that's why you haven't really seen in the last few months any emails detailing membership requirements or anything like that. So that's the whole point of this. So right now, and I just looked right before the meeting, the food hub is actually over $85,000 in sales. We launched the food hub in April, and I think for the first month and a half, there was probably 6 or 7 producers. And it really wasn't until the middle of August, probably, that you saw this huge jump in producers. Now we have 26. So we have 26 producers, and that's from May until now, selling everything from meat, produce, value-added products, baked goods, Little Red Hen Bakeries on there, essential oils, Lavender Winds on there. There's 598 registered customers A lot of those customers are ordering weekly. And like I said earlier, the intent is to have wholesale sales operational by the start of next growing season. So the way the Food Hub works is it's an online marketplace. The producer, with the help of the market manager, our market manager can walk producers through the entire setup process, listing your product, making a producer account, making a profile. But the producer will list your product and set your prices in an LFM, which is the software program. The Food Hub adds a 10% markup. This is just to cover Food Hub costs. So the Food Hub is not paying for any of the other programs of WIG right now. It's just covering the operational costs of the hub. And there's a 5-day order period. It begins on Friday. So Friday at noon, it goes live and customers can order. Producers can update their availability of their products at any time during that order period. So, if you have a big run on something and you sell out, you can update your availability. You're not set in stone once that order period starts. The order period ends by Tuesday. Producers receive a pick ticket Tuesday night, and then produce is dropped off at my farm, Bell's Farm right now, for aggregation on Fridays. And then it gets distributed Friday afternoon to one of 3 locations: the greenhouse in Oak Harbor, Mutiny Bay Blueberry Farm in Freeland, and here at Bell's Farm in Coopville. And then the cycle starts over again. Ordering's live for the next week. The Buyers Club, I think between the Food Hub and the Buyers Club, if we can't provide value to pretty much everybody that's farming on Whidbey Island, then we should be able to. So the Buyers Club is to bring costs down in just a really concrete way. It's expensive to buy stuff. It's expensive to get stuff to Whidbey, and it's especially expensive if you're a 5 or 10 acre farm and you need a half a pallet of something, or you need 200 pounds of chicken feed. So the Buyers Club will be a bulk purchaser of feed, seed, fertilizer. The possibilities will continue to grow as the membership kind of decides what's most important, right? But and then producers. So what the Food Hub, what the Buyers Club will allow is those producers to still be able to purchase a half pallet or 200 pounds, but get it at a true bulk price. And so you're not paying $120 shipping on 200 pounds of feed. You're not paying, or you're not trying to find some delivery minimum every time you need feed, and it's going to lower costs, right? And so initially, the Buyers Club is going to be pre-order only. And this is to just limit the exposure to the cooperative in terms of capital expense, right? It's going to take, if we start buying 11-ton truckloads right off the bat and just holding them, we're going to tie up a lot of capital, and we're really young, so we don't want to do that. So initially we'll start with pre-orders, which will mean, we'll have a list of available products, and you can pre-order from that list. And as long as the co-op meets those quantities, then the co-op will order them, and then you can pick up from the co-op. Again, as we go forward and we have some sort of baseline for demand and baseline for products that are getting purchased, the co-op can then purchase those products and hold them. So we don't have to be on a pre-order scheme, but mostly that's just because we're trying to be responsible with our money. And so that's going to increase viability, right? Because everything's going to get less expensive. Marketing. This is essentially what Whidbey Island Grown was a marketing brand, and it's did you have? Oh. And it still is that. So we have this great brand and logo, and you know, we have name recognition, and so we can provide value for marketing. You know, we have these big networking channels. We do membership mixers, and we do Whidbey Island Grown Week, and so WIG will continue to promote in that way. It'll also continue to promote through the food hub, market through the food hub, and it'll also promote through the regional channels, you know, NABC and Go Whidbey Camino, and you know, everywhere we get those opportunities. So if Shannon, if you want to, I don't know if you want to say something about marketing. Shannon's our marketing guru.
Yeah, this is kind of like where my pillar that I'm really excited about. I just wanted to touch really quickly on the last bullet there, the Northwest Regional Marketing Group. That's something that I've been involved in putting together with Sustainable Connections, Genuine Skagit Valley, the Island Grown brand on San Juan, and the San Juan Island Food Hub, which has a really similar story to ours, where they were a steering committee, and then after COVID hit, they immediately started a retail food hub. But we have just met a couple times, but we're working on synchronizing our marketing campaigns and thinking of ways where for next year where we can all work together to do marketing campaigns and support each other. And especially Sustainable Connections is really great. They have their Eat Local program that can support us. So I'm really excited about the possibilities of being an organization that can work with other organizations to help market for small farms. So I think that is going to be really good.
Okay, and then brick and mortar stores. So this is a long-term goal for WIG. Obviously, that's a really huge undertaking to open a retail grocery store, but it is part of the goals of WIG, you know, long-term, 5 to 10 years. So, you know, I put this in here because it's important and people ask me about it all the time, but you know, it's a ways down the road. Okay, membership. So starting January 1st, you know, we will require membership. We'll require the paperwork and all that stuff, and we'll require an ownership share or a cooperative, so everyone would purchase a share. So a share in the co-op is $250. That's a one-time purchase. That gets you obviously ownership in the cooperative. It gets you voting rights, and it, you know, gets you buy-in. Dues, $50. These are to help pay for all the operating costs. And then, so for between now and January 1st, if you purchase a share in the co-op, you will be considered a founding member. So on the Whidbey Island Grown website, you'll be listed as a founding member of Whidbey Island Grown Cooperative. You'll also have half of the first year's dues waived. So it'd be a $275. So it'd be $250 for your ownership share, and then $25 for the first year's dues as opposed to $50. If you're a current WIG member, then you get your whole first year's dues waived if you purchase that founding share between now and January 1. Okay, so we've done a lot. We have a lot to do still, but we're in a strong position. We've got some foundational framework with our documents and with our philosophy. We've got a functioning food hub with really, good growth of sales. And we've got a positive bank account, which is pretty fantastic also. And that's thanks to the grants that we've received between March and now. But so what we need buy-in. We need members, we need participation. We need everybody's ideas, resources, thoughts. A 5-member board is not going to be able to accomplish all these things. But all of us together, a 250-member organization can and will accomplish these things, but we need help, and that can mean whatever you've got. If it's, Anna Peterson taking time off from her crazy farm life to come help pack boxes, then great. If it's you've got a spare chest freezer or a forklift or a delivery van, or somebody that's really good at administrative work or marketing or whatever, could be helpful to creating a system that makes farming more profitable, it makes farming more viable, it makes food more accessible, and it makes us more resilient, then we can accomplish that. And so we really need participation. That's, more than anything, we need time and resources. This is a big list of thank yous. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but you guys should, because all these people have really done a lot for us. And also, Janae Van Coten should be on that list as well, because she's basically been acting as a board member. Even though she's not a board member, she's been a participant in every board meeting and has given her time and energy and resources. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody on that page. Thank you guys for coming to the meeting. I hope there's questions. It's a whole lot of information. It's going to continue to be refined and defined as we go. But we wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance to see what's been happening and start participating.
Janae, I'm so sorry I left you off the thank you list. I guess I just consider you a board member, so extra special thank you to Janae, who's amazing. I think there might be some questions about the membership fees. Kyle, do you want to go back to that slide and we can talk about that a little more? So basically everyone who buys a share is going to be a founding member. And the share is the ownership in the co-op. If you are a current WIG member and you've paid your dues this year already, then we're going to honor those dues as part of the transition from the old WIG setup to the new, and we'll waive the annual fee. You just need to email me with instructions on how to do that. And then if you didn't renew your WIG membership because we told you that you didn't have to, which was right, or you were not a WIG member yet, then you would do the founding member share, where you would get the $25 off for your annual fee. And so I hope that clarifies it a little bit better. But everyone who buys a share in this first round before January 1st will be a founding member, and that'll be kind of like the first category level on the website.
Okay, does anybody have questions or comments? Or Shannon, I don't know how you want to moderate that.
Yeah, we can do questions. I just had a question. If you want to get involved and you want to volunteer, or you have something that you feel like, you know, you'd like to share or coordinate with us, if you email info@woodbeyislandgrown, I get all those emails. So it kind of looks funny sometimes when you email one of those info ads or whatever emails, but I get all those emails, so I can answer those. And if you email foodhub@woodbeyislandgrown.com, all those emails go to Danielle. So there is someone on the other end of our email addresses, and we love to hear from you. So I guess just unmute yourself and just speak up if you have questions.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, go for it, Nathaniel.
Has there been any consideration to raise the fee, the markup on your end, just so you can help finance some of your needs and staffing as opposed to relying on volunteers? Me personally, I just feel like this is like a steal. Like 10% is nothing for the service that you guys are trying to provide, and I think it's worth at least 15 or 20, and that would still be better than alternatives out there. And if you guys hit a cash crunch and need more staff to fill the essential duties, just speaking for myself, like I think that would be totally reasonable to charge more. You're charging next to nothing at this point, and so don't feel afraid to bump up those fees if you need to, or switch it around and be like, you know, we're going to take 20 or 15 or 20% of whatever price you set. That might be a little more straightforward for people knowing, so that it doesn't get bumped up 20% more of what people, you know, initially said which is already relatively high compared to other outlets. So just a thought.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, because we do talk about that a lot. I mean, obviously the board, which is another really good point that I want to mention. So our intent, we're an interim board, so our intent is to have nominations and get a board selected as soon as we break the first of the year. Back to the markup. So the way we're thinking, I mean, obviously this could change if we, you know, we're operating out of Bell's Farm right now. It's not an ideal situation. I'm basically splitting my pack shed in half. So, you know, at some point, and it's also, you know, we're kind of at max capacity. So at some point we're going to need a facility. You know, we're getting a sweet deal on a delivery van right now, essentially for free, but at some point we're going to have to purchase a van. So there's definitely the potential that those markups could go up. But the goal of the food hub is to pay for the food hub, and not necessarily the other things of WIG. And something that we've talked about as a group, as we've looked into the buyers club, is that I think that there's more potential to gain the revenue for the organization through that outlet, so that we're not taking it directly out of your sales to a consumer, right? Because that just, it makes the sticker price for somebody using higher. So the buyers club, just kind of as an example, I don't have numbers in front of me, but I've done some of the numbers. I've talked to some distributors. So for Redbridge Farm sells chicken feed, right? If we were to get an 11-ton truckload of chicken feed, the co-op could charge a 30% markup, and would still be $4 to $5 less per bag of feed than Skagit Farmers sells it for. So, you know, as we've kind of looked at ways for the cooperative to maintain a revenue stream to keep providing these services, I think the Buyers Club's really promising in that way, because we're still providing a product much cheaper than we are able to get it individually, but the co-op has the room, because the price discount is so dramatic, the co-op has the room to charge that, like you were talking about, a 20, 25, 30% markup, and still get products to farmers at a much cheaper rate than they're able to get them on their own.
And I would say too that when San Juan Island Food Hub started their wholesale in the end of August, and they have extra like overhead because they have to transport product between islands, but they did end up raising their percentages when they started that. So it's easier to keep our overhead low when we're doing retail because it's a lot smaller quantities than it potentially could be for wholesale. But I think we do want to wait for the official board that's voted on to kind of look at that and make that decision. We had a question. What's the current level of interest in opening to non-Woodbey Island producers and small scale Skagit Valley farms? Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Kyle? We didn't even put that into the food hub.
Yeah, so that is in our market guide for producers. So that information can be found on the WIG website under market guide for producers. But so the way the food hub is structured is that priority is given to local producers first, Whidbey Island producers first. If the product is not available, for example, the food hub's been selling Twin Brook Creamery milk because we don't have any cow dairies on Whidbey. So the food hub will allow people from outside the area to participate, but the priority is always to local producers first. So, I mean, you know, if there's, let's say, just because, you know, Deep Harvest is able to offer 100 pounds of cucumbers a year, doesn't mean we shouldn't let any other cucumber sales happen, because that's a really small number, right? We've got plenty of cucumbers on Whidbey, so that's not a bad example. But, you know, so if there's not any sort of market saturation for that product, then I think that's just a board decision. The board would have to say, okay, there's, you know, 2 producers selling this, but they only have it for 30 days out of the year, and it sells out in the first 2 hours of the ordering period. Yes, let's take this Skagit farmer that has this product that we just don't have in a consistent way.
More questions?
I wanted to mention about the Buyers Club. Kyle did bring up about bulk buying for seed and feed and many of those things, but that would also include packaging, boxes, jars, you know, for those value added items. Get those items in bulk, bring the cost down for those producers as well. So as we get closer to launching that, we want to hear from you what your supply needs are so that we can look into those and get those prices and be able to offer that through the Buyers Club.
I have a question. Are you guys going to post anywhere all the different emails? For instance, what Janae just said, you know, how to contact her, or how do you contact Shannon? how do you contact Kyle? I mean, you can say it on this thing, but I'm not writing it down so fast. So is it going to be on a website somewhere?
Yes, so if you scroll down to the bottom, the contact us should go to info at, and then on the first page, I'm trying to think of where I have, on the first page of the membership guide, so the Woodby Island Grown Cooperative Membership Guide, it has the info at address where you can email us, and that's the best way to do it, I think, is to just start off there, and I can funnel your question to someone else if necessary, or I can just talk to you directly.
Thank you.
Yeah. But most communication outlets lead to me, so.
I have a quick question if I'm not interrupting anybody. And I'd also like to say, this is so exciting. I'm really excited. I've been kind of out of the farm loop this year, and I'm really excited to be hearing about all of this that's going on. I'm curious if there's been any conversation yet as far as the Buyers Club about what things that would be farm supplies that would be purchased as organic approved amendments versus not, and whether there's been any initial indication of whether that's going to impact, that could impact, like whether there's enough bulk interest. Does that make sense as a question? Like if I need organic but somebody else doesn't.
Yeah, so we've definitely been looking at organic products. Again, in the short term, like I was saying, kind of as we take baby steps with the Buyers Club, it is going to be sort of on we as a cooperative will have to meet those delivery minimums because we're not going to be holding product initially. It will change, right? But so the short answer is we need you to tell, email info@woodbyislandgrown so that we can start getting those lists together and reaching out to people. I've found a couple of distributors that have a pretty massive breadth of product, everything from like organic cover crop seed to organic compost to, liquid organic fertilizers to livestock feed, all in one distributor. So I definitely think that we'll be able to do quite a bit, but it is going to be specific to what we have the volume for.
And I just want to say, guys, that Arwen and I worked on a farm together for like 3 weeks, and she used to bake me bread all the time. So now we're in a Zoom meeting together 10 years later or something. So it is so nice to see you.
It's great to
Do
see
you
you.
guys have more questions? Comments? Concerns? All right, well, we'll stay on for a little bit longer in case anyone has any more questions or wants to put anything in the chat, but all of this information is on our website, woodbyislandgrown.com, and if you go to /resources where you got this Zoom link, we have all of the organizational documents on there. If you click on, I think it is Woodby Island Grown at the top bar, and you click join us, you can go on there and buy your membership share, use the founding member code, or email me at info@woodbyislandgrown.com if you are a current WIG member already, and I can help you put in the rest of the codes to get your entire membership waived. Is the whole thing. And other than that, yeah, if you guys have any more questions, you can always email us later.
I'm going to stay till 7. So, if you guys just want to brainstorm or if you want to just whatever, I'm not planning on getting off. So if I have to play on my phone, I will, but I'll hang out.
We can do ideas, you know, we can do big ideas, small ideas. We can talk about the weather.
I just wanted to second what Nathaniel said about a larger percentage going to WIG, particularly because it is a complicated organization you guys are doing with a lot of moving parts. And I am so impressed by all of our volunteers. I also don't want to burn out our volunteers. I want to be able to compensate the people who are doing this amazing work. And I hear you about wanting to wait until we're really up and running before we raise that, but also if raising that is going to price people out of participating in this, I think they and we need to know that up front. That's all. Going back to muting in case the baby wakes up.
Totally. When Nathaniel brought that up, I thought of you, Anna, because every time you came with your van and helped us out, you were like, you're not charging enough of a percentage. Too much work.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's a good problem for us to have right now. If our membership thinks that we can charge more, that's a great problem, right? And then we can let the duly elected board change it in January if it's really necessary, or we don't feel like we're going to raise that revenue other places. I think that's and also Anna, so something that we've learned is that we are not a nonprofit technically. We're a not-for-profit corporation, which means we're not allowed to have volunteers anymore. So technically it has to either be co-op members or employees. So we now have 2 distribution employees on top of our market manager. And so and we'll have to figure out some sort of compensation for anybody that wants to, volunteer. We'll have to reimburse them somehow. So we definitely want to make sure they're getting paid, because our volunteers were working their butts off this summer.
We all were. I think Prescott has a question.
Thank you. I wanted to have a conversation at some point about the promotional part, because we've been featuring Whidbey Island Grown, as well as all farmers and restaurateurs, in the Tilth Alliance directory, which goes statewide and is on the web and has an app to it. So I want to, when we get into some of the brass tacks of promoting, and I'd like to have a conversation, because I know I'm going to get asked again, okay, is Whidbey Island going to do the page again for the directory? So I just am putting that out there so that I have some sense of where the marketing is going, and just want to have some input as to what I say when I'm asked that question. Do you want the map back in? You all know what I'm talking about, the Tilth Alliance directory. It's that big red, or that red thing that's been on the ferries and all around.
Yeah, I think we definitely will want to be in there. We gave those out to some of our food hub customers. And I mean, everyone loves that publication. So I think it's a great way to get word out about us.
Okay. I mean, I want to be part of the team, and when we're going in that, when we work out the promotional stuff. Awesome.
I put you down. You're on my team. That's my team. So I put you on there. I like your background too. It's a nice day.
I had a question, just a little more detail about how you charge, or the 10%, is that if somebody comes with a product and they want to sell it for X amount, you're going to add 10% to that? Is that how that works? Okay.
Yep,
So-
so it's automatic.
$3
sorry, go ahead.
item, you're gonna add 30 cents.
Yep, so it's
Okay.
automatic. The Food Hub, the local food marketplace is a software program. So when you input a product, you set your price and that's what you want to make on it. So you decide whatever your price is, and the Food Hub's just automatically gonna add 10% to that.
Okay, so when the person, somebody's buying it, then when they add up their purchases and go to pay, is that shown or?
No, it's all just one price, so they'll just see,
Okay, they just see that is the price and.
Yeah.
Okay. So as someone who's putting their products on there, you're gonna then price your items accordingly with it. Okay.
right, yeah. Are you a producer?
No, I'm a student at the farm school, so I'm gonna be producing hopefully next year.
Good, awesome.
So, yeah, let's learn how to do it first.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so another thing,
I'm going to ask Maria, could you give me your last name so I can write that down for attendance?
Sure, Converse, just like the tennis shoe.
Thank you very much.
so some things for folks to think about if you guys are interested in participating and helping. So our biggest bottlenecks are going to be infrastructure related next season. As we launch the Buyers Club, you know, my farm only has so much space, and so we'll probably need a different location for storing and distributing consumables, you know, for the Buyers Club. You know, receiving large quantity shipments like that will mean that we need a forklift and, you know, covered storage space. It'll mean, you know, potentially, well, so we'll need that for the Buyers Club, and then for the Food Hub going forward, we also need an infrastructure place. You know, my farm is available as long as the hub needs it, but it's also not an ideal solution. You know, like I said, we're splitting my pack shed. So if the hub grows, which it will, much more, it's going to be a pretty tight fit in terms of packing, and have Bell's Farm crew packing in there. So you know, we're looking towards infrastructure in the future. Delivery van, you know, we are always keeping our eye out for freezers and fridges. So if you guys are thinking about those things and you think, you know, oh, I know this, you know, barn that's not being used, or I know this, you know, whatever, even if it might seem mundane, you know, it doesn't hurt to ask and then just start ripping it apart and figuring out what's valuable and what's viable.
We're also kind of looking at spaces in Oak Harbor to be different spaces to be our distribution point for retail customers. The greenhouse nursery is working out really well, but it's not holding up super great in the weather. And so, yeah, if you have any ideas or connections for that as well, that's a need.
So I'm looking at the group. It looks like several of you are farmers. How many of you is infrastructure storage space? Is that a big need, or are we imagining that? Because I feel like it's a big need, especially for the South End farmers that don't have a lot of infrastructure.
If I could
And,
just,
oh, go ahead, Prescott.
I was just going to say that we have a farm stand that we're planning to have an addition added to it through the University of Washington's Design Build program. That probably won't happen until June, but we're hoping to raise enough money to include a cold bot and a storage shed that would be adjacent, that would be in tandem. So it might be something that we can offer. Just telling you, hopefully.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Aaron.
So when you're asking about storage space, you're talking about, are you thinking more pallets of materials, or are you thinking like storage for big harvests at once? Because I feel like I've heard both things circulate broadly in community conversation. So I'm just.
Yeah, sorry, I should have been more specific. So I'm not talking about like the buyers club. I'm talking about like you personally, would you go more winter squash or whatever it is? You know what I mean? Like if you had the storage space, because I do anecdotally feel like that's something that kind of comes up frequently, but I'm always wanting to know if we're on target with that. Long term, is that a need for producers?
Yeah, it's never, I mean, I guess we're blessed with infrastructure, so it's not so much for us. And I think one of the big questions that comes up when I think about it is like how to find the right balance between having that storage that's somewhere other than your own farm and being able to access it really easily. And I don't know the answer to that question, but that's what I always start thinking about is like, okay, how much of that am I still storing on my farm? Like how much is over there? How do I go get it? Like, how do I make sure that that is easy? And how far away is it? Like, are we talking about having, South End, Coopville, Oak Harbor? Like, so that's where the complication comes in for me. I think it's a great question and should continue to be a conversation, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah, and we don't either.
It also just seems dicey. I mean, some things will rot in storage, and I feel like it would be a great opportunity for hurt feelings at best and people getting really upset about money at worst. Like if I store my winter squash with you and, the equipment goes out and it cooks or it freezes, who's liable for that and who cleans up all the rotten squash?
Yeah, so when we first started exploring the co-op idea, we were talking to the Goosefoot board and we were meeting at the Green Bank farm, and so this topic came up, and Goosefoot has sort of, I don't exactly know where they're at on the project, but they were discussing providing infrastructure space for South End farmers to rent storage space. And the way that I perceived it, I guess, from my meeting with them, was that it would sort of be like, like if you rent space at a mini storage, essentially, you have your own space and it's your responsibility. But I don't know if that's what their intent was, or if that's even still a project that they're working on.
And the Puget Sound Food Hub rents out their warehouse space sometimes, but I think they only rent it to like 2 large farms or something. It's not like how we're imagining it, probably where everybody stores like their 100 pounds of squash or something. But they do that.
Now I have a question as a buyer rather than as a producer. Where's the one Willow Farm chicken? Is it coming back?
Yeah, he just processed yesterday. So I believe he will have chicken this Friday. Like he'll list it this Friday.
But it's not on the food hub. Okay, for next week.
Yeah, for next week.
So we need more chicken producers, it sounds like.
Well, and that's another piece of, right, being able to sell through the food hub is not only producing it, but it's having access to the infrastructure for the next bump up of parting out or freezing birds or whatever. So
Yeah, and
down the road.
especially poultry production, I feel like is a big gap on Whidbey. And part of it is just because commercial conventional bird production has become so cheap, artificially cheap, that it's almost impossible to bridge that gap between what the consumers are willing to pay and to even find processing for birds. Like Mark Stewart from One Willow is actually going all the way to Linden to get his birds processed.
Oh, he doesn't do it himself?
No, because he's got a USDA inspection. Well, I think he participates, yes, but it's a WSDA inspected facility.
But that's actually a lot more, that would be a relatively straightforward thing to upgrade. And that would be a great thing for the co-op to work on as sort of low-hanging fruit. I attended a TILF conference session a couple of years ago about a trailer that I believe was certified for that next level beyond the special poultry permit. So I think, you know, some of the management of sharing that and upkeeping the equipment is, of course, you know, needs to be worked through. But I thought, anyway, I found that particular session pretty inspiring because I was like, oh my gosh, that will never happen. And then I went and I was like, oh, wait, like, that's not that hard. So we can do it.
That's the attitude we need. You know, the group that we have is very low-hanging fruit motivated in a very good way. We have just been really good at, like, what can we accomplish? Let's just do it. Let's get it done. And then let's move on to the next thing that's, you know, one step closer to being, you know, completable. So we are going to need participation in the new year, board members and participating co-op members to help us reach that low-hanging fruit.
And ideas. One of the ways we do this is seeing how other people are doing it and then using their models. So if someone is doing this poultry processing trailer, like, can we talk to them and figure out how they're doing it and see what their process was, and then maybe we can just copy it.
Didn't the San Juan Islands have one of those? I feel like there was one on Orcas like almost 10 years ago. They were getting one started.
Okay, I'm gonna ask them about that.
I think I then heard that it didn't work. There was a reason it stopped. And I think it maybe had to do, I can't remember who I was talking to about this. I think it had to do with the upkeep of it. They couldn't find people to maintain the trailer, and it eventually was no more.
And that's something that at the conservation district, we've talked about getting a manure spreader before a lot of times. But the number one issue that we have is who's going to fix it every time someone puts some rocks through it, you know, or it needs to be constantly maintained. So those are skills that are needed, I guess, in our community if we want this infrastructure.
And that brings up another good point, Shannon, about cooperation. We, you know, need to do better about knowing other farmers, and because not only just practices, but things like equipment. You know, I can't take my equipment down to Freeland, or I'm not gonna, sorry. But I bet that equipment exists on the south end, right? And so if we have good, tight networks, we can, not only do I find myself like reinventing uses for equipment, because I've talked to Bruce at Ekholm Farm, or I've talked to John at Kettle's Edge, and I'm like, oh, he's doing this with that equipment, but I can maybe repurpose this thing that I have. But also I bring equipment, you know, to people that are close to me if they need it, right? And so I think if we can build those relationships with each other and kind of, I really want to get away from this idea that, you know, farms are competing with each other. We compete in the marketplace as long as it's ethical and responsible, and that's healthy, you know, to compete on an honest and ethical level. But this idea of like, well, we can't also cooperate, or we can't also, you know, share ideas, because ultimately if we all have better products, then we're all going to sell more products. Okay, 7 o'clock.
Final thoughts. Yeah.
At some point, I would like to talk to one or both of you or something about partnerships with the food bank. We are working on, especially in the next year, purchasing a lot more produce from local farms. And we get money from the state to do it, and we're supposed to raise money simultaneously. And so the more people that we can tell that we need to raise money to match this grant that they give us, the better. But also you already have a lot of people coming to you to buy produce through your retail outlet. And there are other food banks working with co-ops where they actually put, like, at the checkout page, they put donate money to the food bank. And then that money goes into an account where the food banks can then purchase produce from the co-op. So I would like to talk to you all about that at some point.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. LFM has a way for us to put that on there. And we've talked about it before, of having like a different organization every month, or, you know, if we just had a partnership with you guys or something. So yeah, let's definitely talk.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay, final words. Thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited about what we're doing, and tell everybody and drag everybody, and let's just keep working toward it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you everyone for coming.